Howdy, 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 folks. Heimdall is back after a fantastic vacation with Mrs. Heimdall and my little Skraelings to bring you guys the promised deep dive on the Crusader C1 Spirit. Boy, is that a mouthful. Before we dive in, I want to take a moment and sincerely thank you all for watching. The channel has reached phase 2, and none of this would have been possible without the support of my viewers, but we'll touch on that later on in the video. A bit of house cleaning info as well. I still can't promise a set release schedule of like, I'm going to make you a video every day. But as we have now reached phase 2, I can definitely say I'm definitely going to be able to get 1 to 2 a week. I will have more time available to make content and to continue to hone my editing skills, hopefully. Some upcoming videos to keep an eye out for. I'm currently in pre-production on an F8C Lightning review. I love the thing. A Fury review and a redo of my getting started / how-to videos now that I'm a little more established, but also of some of the things have changed since we first made those almost a year ago. So, when the Crusader C1 Spirit was announced, for the rest of this video, I'm pretty much just going to call it the C1 because that's a lot. I immediately knew that it was going to be my daily driver. I'd flown most Crusader ships by that point and knew that it was going to be fantastic. It has sleek lines, good firepower, a spacious amount of carry capacity. I mean, what more could someone want in a daily driver? And Crusader delivered, that's for sure. It's for sale right now on RSI for $125. The ship is a direct competitor to the Drake Cutlass Black and the Misk Freelancer. Let's go over some of its stats, and we'll also look at some of the stats for its competitors. Give us a better idea where it sits in that hierarchy of those early mid ships. So the C1's hull HP is 67,600. You compare that to the Cutlass, which is 36,242, and the Freelancer, which is 30,200. I mean, that's double the HP. It's got shield HP of 9,000. Base DPS with those M5 laser cannons comes in at 985. Our maneuverability ratings are 28 degrees pitch, 28 degrees yaw, and 117 degrees roll, and that's per second. Our SCM speed is 154 meters a second. Our maximum speed is 1,120 meters a second. And our cargo capacity is 64 on the grid. On paper, you can see they're pretty similar in most places. The one that sticks out the most immediately when you look at it is that difference in its hull HP. I mean, it's more than double for the Freelancer and just barely under double for the Cutlass. A thing going for the Freelancer, which is not a sentence I thought I'd ever say, is that it does have double the shield HP because it's got 2 of them. The Cuddy has twice the base DPS, although that's kind of misleading because 2 of those guns are ballistic stock, and I don't know anybody that leaves those ballistics on there for a Cutlass. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but what works for people works for people. That's their business. The maneuverability rates for pitch and yaw, yeah, they're slightly lower on the C1, but then your roll rating is higher. And you want to keep in mind that the acceleration capabilities of a ship, especially when you're at maneuvering speed, in a lot of ways are more important than the pure degrees per second a ship can turn, and that comes down to maintaining momentum. For instance, what makes an arrow so dangerous, even though a Gladius on paper has better maneuverability ratings, is that the arrow is able to maintain speed, high speed, while executing complex maneuvers. And the C1 for its ship competitors definitely does that better than the Cutlass Black and the Freelancer. Now, I'll admit that's just from feel. I don't have a hard rating for it. It accelerates at this amount of meters per second, at this range. I'm just going on. I've been running some mid-level bounties in all three ships the last few days to really make sure I was giving you guys accurate information, and the C1 is just a much more nimble ship. The Cutlass has the highest SCM speed, although it's not exactly blazing away from either of them. Also, the Cutlass and the Freelancer seem much more impacted by atmosphere. So if you find yourself doing bounties or getting attacked in atmosphere, the C1's going to be able to fly faster in atmosphere without losing as much maneuverability, and it's going to be able to escape better. The max speed is also the highest of the three, not by much compared to the Cutlass, but a considerable amount faster than the Freelancer. It carries almost 20 more SCU than the Cutlass and only 2 SCU less than the Freelancer. Now, I would say one of the things to remember is when you see me doing one of these videos with a ship, especially if it's a ship that I really like, it's not going to have the same weapons that came stock on it. I don't like laser cannons. I run CF337 Panthers on my C1, and it really does seem to make a big difference. Yes, on paper, once again, the damage difference, I'm losing about 300 DPS on paper. However, I'm able to apply my damage much more consistently with the high rate of fire and the slightly lower damage per tick that comes with running repeaters versus cannons. All of the ships carry missiles, but I really didn't want to sit here and list them all out because the Cutlass has a whole bunch on it. The Freelancer has some on it. They all three have missiles. The Cutlass is definitely of the three ships in this bracket the best equipped when it comes with missiles, and also has the largest capacity by a wide margin. The Freelancer has a decent complement. It's a little bit better than the Cutlasses, or it's a little bit better than the C1s, but not quite as good as the Cutlasses. The C1 does get 8 size 2, which is nothing to be ashamed of, and it's very useful for thinning a crowded fight while you're approaching. But the missile department is definitely the one place where it gets left in the dust by its competitors. But let's take a look at the ship. So from the outside, you can definitely see right away that it is much larger in footprint than its competition. The C1 measures in at 47.5 meters, 44 meters, and 10 meters. Or if you just want to do the math on that, that is 2,090 meters squared, which is that's a really big ship for this price range and performance bracket. If you want to compare that, the Freelancer comes in at a relatively tiny 893 meters squared, and the Cuddy comes in at 994 meters squared. So this ship is more than twice as large in terms of overall area than its two competitors. And that is something you want to take note of, depending on how you want to use the ship, or just in general, knowing that when you go to land this in places or you're flying in tightly congested areas, you want to remember that if you're coming over from a Cutlass or a Freelancer, the wingspan is significantly larger. It's much easier to clip into things that you're not meaning to do. Speaking of that wingspan, that's what really gives it that wide stance that it has. The wings are, in terms of structurally, the weakest part of the ship just because of their size. They do have a habit of getting shot off, and if you're not careful, when they get shot off, you can lose the engine too, and that's, if you're atmosphere bound, that is going to result in a crash. There's just not much you're going to be able to do about it, especially if you're traveling at speed when it happens. The overall height of the ship is actually pretty thin. It's a lot more like a paper airplane in terms of its height compared to like the Freelancer which they both have wings that dip down on the sides, but the freelancers are a much more pronounced angle, which is something you got to think about once again when you're flying. You know, where is my ship going to fit? How am I going to get this in there? The Cutlass is the tallest of the three, but because it's much more compact, it's easier to fit the Cutlass in places. Another thing about the wings, the size of the wings specifically, is that creates a very large cross section. So you want to be conscious of the ships you're engaging in or running away from, because if they're using the right kind of missiles, it's going to be almost impossible to break that lock without a little bit of luck, just because of how big that cross section is. Another thing, there is no defensive turret. The A1, the Cutlass, and the Freelancer, you know, those all come with defensive turrets. This does not have a defensive turret. Instead, what looks like a defensive turret right there, that's actually the tractor beam, and we'll discuss that in a bit. That's what replaced the defensive turret on this ship. It's important to remember, while yes, the ship can fight, it is not a combat ship. That's not its design. That's not its focus. It's just a secondary benefit. I know it's a minor thing for a lot of people, but one of the things I like about Crusader ships, and this ship in particular, is the ramp opens pretty quick. Now, yes, I know the Hercules series, that thing takes, 10 years to get open. But it opens pretty quick, and you can see this red line here on the ground. That is a small detail, and it's one of the things that I just love about this ship. Does it make the ship fly better, carry more cargo? No, not at all. But it's a detail that has a purpose. It's useful. It tells people on the ground, okay, the ramp's coming down, don't stand in the way. It also lets people know, if you can see that, the ramp's open, but also come up here. We'll hit that button again. See how it flashes? It lets you know that it's closing. So you're landing, you're running bunkers, you're jumping out real quick. You want to make sure your ramp closes in case somebody else comes along. All you got to do is hit the button, turn a little bit. If you see that flash, you're good to go. It's a small detail, but it just makes some things move a little smoother, and I really like that kind of thing. So up in this room here at the rear, this is kind of we've got our blast shield, bulkhead doors, whatever you want to call them, right here. We'll open those in a second. But there's also our component access back here. I like the blast doors. Because, I like to help people out in game. I see someone saying, oh, I need a ride somewhere. This lets me bring them on the ship, but keep them from getting to me in the pilot seat. Now, it's not going to stop a really determined person, but it might slow them down long enough that I can get out of the seat and defend myself. And anyone who's been in that situation knows every second really counts. Let's go ahead and open those up and take a peek at where the action happens on this ship. So this is our cargo area. I find it interesting that the ship can carry so much, because it's large. It's very large for a medium, but it just feels in some ways smaller than the Cutlass Black in terms of its capacity, even though the Cutlass Black carries 20 less SCU. I put the Cyclone in here to show you guys, you can easily fit a Cyclone. You can fit a Cyclone with a turret. I've had the MT and the TR, all those on here. It all fits pretty well. One note is when you bring those on here, watch these little lips right there, right there, right there, right there. Because if you bump them, it's going to make your Cyclone do this like it's doing, where it won't settle in. It hasn't blown my ship up yet. I'm sure that's going to happen as soon as I lift off later at the end of this video. But just a small note. We're going to go ahead and move forward. In this little hallway, we have the secondary component access. Now, these are components that the game devs have not put in game yet. You can't change out your avionics or your life support system or radar or any of that. But it's nice that they're forward thinking and putting these compartments here, because then once those components are included in the game, they don't have to redesign the ship. They don't have to do all this extra stuff. They've already got the slots in. They've already got things ready. And that's kind of a neat thing, at least in my opinion. But my opinion doesn't count for much. We're going to come through this last door here into our habitation area / recreation, all that stuff, and also where the cockpit is. So, like most Crusader ships, it has the almost Millennium Falcon kind of hallways. I know that's kind of an easy mark, considering what most people call the MSR, but I like the design cues. One of the things I like about Crusader over, we'll say, Origin. Origin seems to be luxurious just for the sake of flexing and being luxurious, whereas Crusader does a good job of being elegant, being refined, but also everything has a purpose. Everything looks clean, it looks nice, but it's functional. We have weapons storage over here. We have EVA lockers for once those are fully implemented in game. We turn around, we have a functional restroom. Okay, good. Still a vampire. Good to know. We've got a toilet, we've got a shower, all that stuff that if you're going to be in a ship for a long time, you want, of course. We've got a kitchenette. They saved some space by doing my least favorite spaceship design element, which is beds that double as escape pods. I don't know why I'm so irrationally terrified of that idea, but it just... And there's also overhead storage over each of the beds, which is nice because, if you're running around with you and a buddy, y'all can each put things away. You don't have to worry about getting your loot mixed up. It's a small detail. Let's take a peek at the pilot's view. Like most ships, the pilot sits on the left, co-pilot sits on the right. Now you'll notice pretty quickly you've got a pretty nice view, especially I would say the top half of your screen is just about as wide open as it can be. There is no belly view, which is really my only complaint about the cockpit, other than only having two MFDs. That's just, oh gosh. I flew fighters for my first 6 months in game, and I got spoiled. I like having 4 screens. But it's a small detail that, honestly, as I've gotten further in the game, I don't even use my MFDs much. I'll have a power and maybe a weapons MFD up, depending on what ship I'm in and what type of game loop I'm attacking at that moment. Yeah, you can tell. I mean, there's a lot of small details that stick out here. It carries the Crusader design elements in terms of where they assign their buttons. It looks a lot like a traditional human aircraft in its layout, more than a lot of other ships seem to do. And I kind of like that, even though I'm not a big plane guy. But it's just it's a small detail that I like that they carry over. We're going to go peek over at the co-pilot seat. Now, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier in the video or not. The co-pilot does not control weapons like a co-pilot would in most of the other ships. For instance, if you had a cutlass, you could have that co-pilot get back in a defensive turret. You don't have that option here. The turret for the co-pilot here is actually the tractor beam. You want to power on, hit deploy, and that's going to put that tractor beam out here and ready to go. Now the tractor beam has a pretty decent field of view. You can definitely, if you're out, let's say you have some bounties out in an asteroid field or anywhere really, you could kill your bounty, have your pilot go pull stuff out, or if you blew it up and it's floating around space, reach out and grab it with your co-pilot, have your pilot standing in the back pulling stuff in. It just makes things a little bit faster. I think once engineering gameplay comes along, that co-pilot's going to have a bit more of an expanded role with power management and things. But as you can tell, you've got a pretty good field of view. I mean, it moves pretty well. You can rotate it back up by holding the down key, S. And And it's a nice little addition that gives someone something to do. Now, I do think, as far as multi-crew gameplay is concerned, the Cutlass Black or a Freelancer is probably a better option if you're buying a ship specifically for that. But I really feel like if you're a solo player or you're just occasionally doing multi-crew gameplay, this is a fantastic ship to get. So let's talk about some of the uses for the C1. Now, the most obvious use for the C1 would be light cargo hauling, and that's a role that the ship excels at. If that's not your thing, if you're looking more to do, let's say bounty hunting, the pilot has 4 size 3 weapons that are disposable, which is more than most fighters have until you start getting into the really expensive fighters. And that makes this a very effective bounty hunting ship up to a point. I would say, unless you're very good, I wouldn't necessarily recommend going much higher than an HRT, just because the damage output that those ships will have and the escorts that those ships will have is those HRT, VHRT bounties are going to be very difficult for you to manage given the maneuverability limits. Now, that's the same thing you have in a Cutlass or a Freelancer, though in a Cutlass and a Freelancer you'll also have that defensive gunner. I really think MRT, HRT is probably about the cap for average players. That's definitely where I'm at. I would say I'm an average pilot. Nothing amazing, nothing to be ashamed of. Is how I would describe my flying capabilities. One of the things to remember, though, is if you're doing those bounties in this ship, you have the cargo space. So you kill the bounties, go pick up the cargo. You've got 64 CU of cargo space. You can throw stuff in there, add to that cash flow. I'm actually doing a chillin' to supervillain run on my alt account, and that's how I'm making money, and it's actually working out really well. It's a lot of fun. Another great use of the C1 is as a bunker running ship. Now, it obviously fits a Cyclone, as you saw, including the turreted ones. You just got to watch those entryways, as I mentioned. But, that's a fantastic way to make money when they're working. Right now, I haven't been able to complete a bunker mission that's not waves in probably about 2 weeks now. It's getting kind of frustrating. I'm not sure what's going on, but I trust CIG is going to get that fixed. Always optimistic. The last real big use that I didn't think about, because I'm not a big fan of it personally, but it is a great way to make money and a lot of people enjoy it, would be as a rock mining ship. And when 3.22 comes out here in the near future, you're going to be able to buy those empty cargo crates. You could grab a rock and 20 SCU worth of empty cargo crates, fill them up with whatever you want, and make a lot of money. That's just that's a fantastic. I'm really thinking about trying that with the Cutlass in my alt account, and I'll definitely be letting you guys know in that upcoming Getting Started series how that works out. If you haven't grasped, one of the things that I think is most fantastic about this ship is the flexibility of it, which is something that I really loved about the Cutlass Black. To me, this ship just kind of dials it up a little bit more in a little bit different direction. This one feels a little more solo play focused, whereas the Cutlass Black definitely feels a little more multi-crew play focused. Definitely both allow you to try game loops that you just can't do with starter ships, not with just one starter ship. And that's really underrated in the community, it seems, and I don't understand why. When you get your starter ship and you are looking at, well, I want my second ship, I don't know what game loop I necessarily want to dive into fully. You get a ship like this, you can try them out, and you can try them out, up to a median at least difficulty level, which allows you to really tell, okay, I've been grinding these bunkers. Yeah, I'm making a lot of money, but I don't really enjoy it. I want to try bounty hunting. Well, cool. You have a ship that can do that. You don't have to go run a whole bunch more bunkers to save and do that. Or vice versa. Or, I want to get into mining, or I want to do hand salvage. I want to save up and get a vulture. all these things are a lot easier if you have a versatile ship that can do at least up to that mid-tier difficulty. I will say, for those of you that watched my first impressions take on the C1, many of those impressions that I had in that first look video have only been strengthened. I don't know if it's come across as well as I would like it to, but I really love this ship. I did not think a ship would come along and supplant the Cutlass Black for me, because I still love the Cutlass Black. It's a fantastic ship as well. But man, was I wrong. I flew this for like 20 minutes and was hooked. I was like, that's the one for sure. It's got the extra cargo, the flight characteristics. It looks like $1,000,000. The tractor beam track, all these things are just awesome small details that really make this stand out to me. Yes, I'm aware that the Cutlass has its own tractor beam. I get it. I like this ship. It's fantastic. I try to be impartial, and my elation might be mistaken for overzealousness, but I really believe that this is a perfect solo ship and has use in all phases of the game, whether that be you're just getting started, you're branching out, or you're a 10-year backer who wants a daily driver or just a fun ship to do stuff in. That just, I love it. But anyways, we're going to close out now. So this has been Heimdall's review of the Crusader C1 Spirit. If you like what we're doing, hit that like button, tap subscribe, and smash that bell icon for notifications. Now, this is my first video since the channel has hit phase 2. And I wanted to take a moment to thank all of you guys for helping us get here. The channel growth and support, it's been phenomenal. And I am very excited to see where this goes from here. I'm now offering memberships for the low price of $1.99 a month. I felt like that equaled the amount of stuff I'd be able to put out for you guys for members. If you're inclined to join, the benefits of that membership would be some sneak peeks at upcoming videos, special badges, member shoutouts, and access to the member community chat to find like-minded fellow citizens. The channel would not have made it nearly this far without the support of some really fantastic people. First and foremost, my wonderful wife and my amazing kids, of course the viewers, and another incredibly important fount of support, information, some help staging things for videos would come from my organization. I'm a member of the Freedom Fighters Company. If you're interested in a chill org to join, or just looking for some folks to run around the verse with, there will be a Discord link on my channel page. As always, thank you again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all out there in the verse.